Uh, Welcome you all to this special class on Unacademy Unlock platform, YouTube platform. So today we will be looking at this very important topic, the question that we are doing in our general space polity governance paper. We have been looking at all of them and we have done some of the questions in two classes. Let us look at the rest of the questions that we have to do. So, before starting our class, as usual, let us start with the courses that are offered on Unacademy platform. As you can see here, the Unacademy has come out with an introductory offer for those who are preparing for 2023, where they are given additional 10% discount on the entire course fee. The original fee is 78,999. Now you can get it for 63,898. This offer is valid till 19th of January. You'll be getting books and batches are starting from 19th. You will also have the test series. Then you also have there's a top rankers from Unacademy in the last mains. You can see them number 2, 9, 10, 13, 14, 16 and 20. And these are all the top overall rankings of Unacademy. The batches are starting from 19 January, Mission 2022, Expedition 2022, Laksh 2023, Mission 2023 and Expedition 2023. These are optional courses that are starting in the month of January. Political science, international relations, economics, combat history, sociology, geography, PS, philosophy and sociology. Then this is what you have. You have you can accomplish your mission with Unacademy with the live mentoring, study planner and mains examination. And then open house with educators. You can get instant loans. There is no processing fee, flexible tenure and minimal paperwork. On 16 January, that is tomorrow at 11 a.m., you have UPSC CSE Combat 60 minutes and 56 questions. It is available in both Hindi and English. And those who are getting between top 1 to 3 ranks, they will be getting 100% scholarship. And between 4 to 10 ranks, they will be getting 70% scholarship. And between 11 to 50 ranks, they will be getting 50% scholarship and so on. You can enroll using our code PKS10. So these are all the courses that are offered on an Academy platform. So let us come back and look at what we are discussing. We have seen some of the questions here. So we have seen up to question number 8. Let us look at let us start from question number 9. As you know, UPSC in polity governance, constitution, social issues, and international relations. 4 questions are given for international relations. Normally, these questions are not difficult to predict because most of the time UPSC will be asking questions from mostly predictable topics only. So what you can see here is that this year the questions are asked from Indo-Africa. Obviously, because this is Indo-Africa, it has not been asked for quite a good amount of time. So that's the reason why they have asked this question now. If the last few decades were of Asia's growth story, the next few are expected to be Africa's. In the light of the statement, examine India's influence in Africa in recent times. So obviously, these kind of questions, basically, you can see are asked to find out your knowledge about the current international relations. And Indo-Africa, even though you have to go back to the times wherein India had very close relations with Africa, when Mahatma Gandhi went to South Africa, wherein he started experiment with his Satyagraha also. That is the reason why 9th January celebrated at this NRI Day, because Mahatma Gandhi has landed there. So from a very long period of time, India had a very what we call a fruitful relationship with Africa. That is what we say. Very, very fruitful relationship with the African countries. And after that, Nelson Mandela, he was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's freedom movement, which ultimately led to Africa also getting getting rid of the white rule, Mandela. And then you have to talk about immediately after independence, these African countries also becoming part of the NAM, non-aligned movement also, which was started by Jawaharlal Nehru, Desmond Tutu. Recently, he also died. If you remember, if you happen to see that, and then Nazir of Egypt and Indonesia. All these what we call developing countries had come together, and they had become part of this not that this NAM non-aligned movement also. So Africa has always been a very, very important strategic partner for India. What happened is that you know within since the beginning of liberalization, privatization, globalization, there has been a shift, definitely a shift in the focus of the country from Africa to America, Europe, and then East Asia also. We had this look east policy, act east policy, and we have also shifted our focus to this more importantly America and European Union, because they had become the largest trading partners for India for a period of time. Africa definitely went out of the radar of India because Africa was mostly for symbolic reasons. We had the relationship with Africa mostly for symbolic reasons to fight against this and to fight against imperialism. But after that, we had become more busy with our domestic concerns. So that's the reason why we were giving more importance to economic aspects. And then what happened? This non-aligned movement also had become a little bit more irrelevant in this age of multilateral, multipolar world. Immediately after the disintegration of Soviet Union, NAM also was fast losing its relevance because NAM had come into existence as a response to the bipolar world. After that, NAM was also losing its relevance. So is Africa. Africa slowly but surely went out of the India's radar. African continent, unfortunately, was always talked about as a dark continent. So this is what it was, and India did not pay much attention to Africa or African issues for a longer period of time. But in the last 70 years, when our this India government had come to power, again the focus has shifted to Africa. As you can see here on the in a screen also, as you can see here, in 2018, our trade with Africa was $80 billion, which has increased from $7 billion in 2013, 2003. And India is now Africa's largest trade partner also. And, uh, and we are also the seventh largest investor in Africa. And the important reason why our interest in Africa had grown in recent times is because of the string of pearls policy of China. China wanted to encircle India, through the string of pearls policy, both Indian Ocean, all the countries in the Indian Ocean that China wanted to have control over. That is the reason why India was forced to become proactive also to counter the aggressive growing intentions of Chinese hegemony. That is where again Africa becomes very important for us. Please remember, in international relations, your focus should be on it should be more on what we say these strategic issues rather than coming out with the facts. Definitely, facts are required. More than the facts, what is required is you have to look at these things from the long-term strategic perspective. As I said, Indian investments in Africa, as you can see on the screen also, have grown and rapidly. And the country is currently the seventh largest investor in Africa. And India also has began to use this concessional lines of credit from 2003 onwards to develop infrastructure in Africa, because that is what communist China was doing and it has been doing. It is using this infrastructure finance and development as an instrument to influence most of the countries around the world. In the process, it is trying to occupy the major ports also, like in Sri Lanka also. So that is when India had to become more proactive, and India also had started financing the infrastructure projects in Africa, including railway lines, electrification projects, irrigation projects, farm mechanization projects, and others. And you can see it on the screen again. These LOCs are extended on the basis of what we call mutual benefit. Recipient countries make developmental gains, while this LLC creates new market for Indian companies. So it is a win-win situation for both India and those countries. They can make these recipient countries like African countries will be having developmental gains, whereas it will be creating new market for Indian products also. So that and importantly, of course, it helps in building better relations also. And these another important that we have to remember here that these African countries have a huge amount of natural resources which can be easily exploited, like food, energy, and other resources. And India in recent times has sanctioned almost 182 projects and committed around $10.5 billion of credit to these companies. And they also have these LYCs, letters of credit, also have a lot of impact in Africa. India's irrigation projects in Senegal, it has led to six-fold increase in rice production, as you can see it on the screen also. It has led to six-fold increase in rice production, and it's also currently over 30% of consumption is covered by domestic production only. Before that, it was only 12%. Similarly, our LOS is worth $640 million in Ethiopia, helped the country become self-sufficient in sugar production. And it also benefited around 10,000 villages who to have what we call safe drinking water also. And we also talk about India and Africa cooperating on global issues. All of both the countries have worked on global issues because all of them part of what we call the developing countries. And for example, they have strongly moved proposals on this protection of geographical indications at WTO, intellectual property organizations, as well as in the Doha round of trade negotiations also. So this is what ultimately we say. Similarly, recently, very recently, India and Africa had come together again, demanding that these trade-related IPRs, intellectual property rights, for COVID treatment should be removed. This is what you have to write for this question: Indo-Africa relations. Right? So shall we move on to the next question? Yes? Okay. So let us move on to the next question. The USA is facing an existential threat from in the form of a China that is much more challenging than erstwhile Soviet Union. This is very important. USA is facing an existential threat in the form of China, which is much more challenging than erstwhile Soviet Union. Why? Why the threat from China for USA is much more dangerous than Soviet Union? Why? Because first and foremost, the Soviet Union was a major defense power but not economic superpower. That is what we must remember. Defense, the Soviet Union could easily dominate America also, but not economic superpower. And then another thing is that China is strategically located in Asia. China is strategically located in Asia. And the thing here is that USA, the Soviet Union, was the breakdown of this disintegration of Soviet Union made Soviet Union less of a threat for USA. And then in another thing is that in the Soviet Union, the communist regime was less, or you can say, was less harmful than the communist regime right now that has ruling China. China has a very huge ambitions compared to Soviet Union. Now let us see what are the major threats that USA is facing from China. First and foremost, China is the second largest economy in the world at this point of time. In at a point of time when the USA and America were having this Cold War, that was not the case. China is the second largest economy in the world, and it is said that in a very short period of time, China would overtake United States of America also. The first thing. Second one is Chinese population. China also has huge amount of human resources. At that point of time, Soviet Union did not have that kind of population. And China knows how to utilize its human resources, which even USA also does not have. Third thing is that China's this string of pearls strategy. USA and Soviet Russia, they were fighting the Cold War, so the world was divided only few countries. Right now, there is no Cold War, so the ground is completely left empty for China. China can use its economic might to influence the countries, right? This economic corridor, already most of the European countries are more than in favor of this economic corridor that China is building. That would benefit them also. At that point of time, European countries were ideologically against Soviet Russia, which is not the case right now with China. Next one is that China has also made rapid strides in science and technology. For example, at some point of time, it is felt that Chinese products would be dominating even 5G technologies also. Next point is that China has become the back office of the entire world. As you can see during the Corona crisis, when the Corona crisis had come up initially, when China could not supply, you can see the global supply chains were completely broken. It had created so much of mayhem in the global markets also, which is not the case with again Soviet Union. Next thing that USA is that Chinese presence is very high in United States of America, unlike Russians. One of them, the ethnic group with highest number of people in America is right now Chinese. So that can also become a major threat to USA. And then China's hegemony over Indian Ocean, that can create major problems for United States of America, because China has being its vast country, it can use its vastness to influence the policies of the countries, all the countries around the world also. And another thing is that at this point of time, China's foreign exchange reserves are more than the foreign exchange reserves of combined together that of IMF and World Bank also. You can imagine China is using its economic might. It is using its economic might to influence most of the countries around the world. Next thing is that China is also slowly occupying the space that is vacated by Soviet Russia, and more importantly here, China is also influencing very decisively United Nations also. The best example is United Nations also, right? In United Nations also. Take the case of this WHO, World Health Organization, right? World Health Organization, when America had come out of it, China had come and funded the World Health Organization. That is the reason why World Health Organization's performance during the Corona crisis was also seriously questioned, because it had become a mouthpiece of Chinese Communist Party. That is what another reason why USA has to fear China. It is much more challenging. Another thing here is that right now there is no ideological divide in the world, so that United States of America can stop the countries from joining the Chinese hegemony. Why? Because countries are only looking at their what we call countries are looking at their only self-interest. So if they believe that they can benefit by joining hands with China, there is no ideological barrier for them to join hands with China. Best example is this European Union. European Union is more than willing to do business with China, which is not the case with the Soviet Union. But in spite of all these things, in spite of all these things, at least in the near future, immediate future, China cannot be what we call an existential threat for USA because of various reasons. Why? Because in United States of China, United States of America has a vibrant democracy, whereas China is a dictatorship. And it has been proved all over that these dictatorial regimes cannot sustain their growth rates in the long term, because what is required is capitalism in a free market, which China does not have. So that is one of the important things that United States of America has compared to China. Maximum multinational companies in the world are still located in United States of America. More than what is the GDP of America, we have to look at the influence of these MNCs over the rest of the world. We still don't have any Chinese MNCs which can influence the rest of the world. It is they are still coming up, but both of them they are not that much influence. It will take some time for them to come up and for them to influence the rest of the world. China, America's hegemony is not restricted to its global economic might. Another thing that we say here is that in case of America, cultural dominance. American movies, American food, American industry, American multinational companies, they have absolute influence over the rest of the world, which we do not see in case of China. So to say that China can become an existential threat for America is a far-fetched one. That is what you have to write for this question, right? Yes. Shall we move on to the next question? Right. Yeah. Let us move on to the next question. The jurisdiction of CBI regarding lodging of an FIR and conducting probes within a particular state is being questioned by various states. However, the power of the states to withhold consent to CBI is not absolute. Explain with special reference to federal character of India. Why this question was asked? This question was asked because you know, of the recent, because of the recent, problems in CBA. So, first of all, how did the CBI Central Bureau of Investigation come into existence? And before that, as I always say, I always start with the why aspect of the question. What is the why aspect of the question here? This law and order is part of the state list that is listed to. So, maintenance of law and order is part of the state list. This Central Bureau of Investigation, otherwise CBI, has come into existence to investigate into matters of corruption and major criminal cases. It has drawn its powers from Delhi State Powers Police Act, Special Police Act in 1946. It had come into existence. So now, this 1946 Special Police Act, Delhi, it had encroached upon the powers of the state governments also under the union, under this division of powers. That is the reason why, before CBI start any kind of investigation, it requires a general consent from the state governments to investigate the cases. It requires general consent from the state cases. And in recent times, why this question was asked? In recent times, we have seen many states have rejected this general consent given to CBA. Andhra Pradesh was the first state, then Bengal, then Punjab, then Kerala, in recently Maharashtra. So all these states, most of these opposition ruled states have rejected the consent given to CBI to investigate cases, mostly cases related to the corruption cases of the corruption of the ruling political party in the states. Mostly, they are opposition parties for the central government. And also, CBI was also fast losing its significance because of its politicization also. So that is the reason why in most of the states they have withdrawn this general consent that is given to the CBI. All the states. That means CBI simply cannot automatically investigate the cases. They must go and take consent from the state governments. And if the state government gives consent, you know, uh, then only they can investigate the cases. So then what happened? This CBI can investigate the cases. How can a CBI investigate the cases in related to the states, whether it is corruption or any other thing? When the state government, in a voluntary manner, requests the CBI to take up the case. Second, when the Supreme Court or the High Court asks the CBI to take up the case. Third, when the central government had asked will ask the CBI to investigate the cases. When the central government would ask the CBI to investigate the cases, what happens? The CBI will have to approach the state governments, and the state governments, if they have withdrawn general consent, then again state governments can give a specific approval for those cases, provided they are willing to. Otherwise, they cannot. As we have discussed recently, most of these opposition real states have rejected giving this general consent to the CBI regarding investigation. And then on top of it, we also have this constitutional provisions, Article 131. Supreme Court of India has what we call original jurisdiction over matters related to union and state relations. So this is what exactly the situation right now at this point of time. And this question was asked, as I said, because of the fact that most of the state governments have withdrawn their consent to the CBI, right? Because of the politicization of the functioning of the organization, right? So then, what is the solution? That is what we have to look at it. After looking at the problems, what are the constitutional provisions related to it? However, the states to withhold the consent to CBI is not absolute. That is what I said. Why the states consent states consent withholding the consent to CBI is not absolute, because, as I said, the Supreme Court and high courts can direct the CBI, and if the matter is related to what we call these terrorism cases, other things, again CBI can also then CBI can investigate, right? uh, Abhishek, there is nothing like concept building thing. Uh, you know in public administration you don't have to worry too much about the concepts. Anyway, what Abhishek you can do is you can I have done a crash course recently for 1 month, wherein I have cleared all the concepts and also done the questions. You can attend that crash course only one for 1 month, and it is there on Unacademy platform. You can take that course, wherein I have cleared all the concepts and everything else. You can attend that course, right? Right? Yeah, Abhishek, I don't decide the fee, right? Beggars cannot be choosers. And one more thing, to be fair to Unacademy, the fee charged by Unacademy are also very, very less compared to the kind of fee we charge in Delhi. So, you cannot blame them. The fee is also very less, right? The fee charged by Unacademy is also very less, right? So, the crash course wherein I have cleared all those concepts. You can just go through that one. And then, coming back to this question, you know, and then in central government, there are so many provisions in the constitution wherein the central government can give directions to the state governments. Under Article 257 (1) of our constitution, central government can give directions to the state governments. And Rishu, I did not speak to an academy, for a long time. I'll find out from them. I'll find out from them. I don't speak to them on a daily basis. I'll find out from them, right, about my notes. So coming back here, under Article 257 (1) of our Constitution, central government can give directions to the state government regarding law and order, and those directions have to be complied by the state governments. Otherwise, central government can use Article 356 also. And recently, what did the central government do? This is also you have to write the latest information also. In the previous session of Parliament, central government had come out with a legislation amending the Delhi Special Police Powers Act, wherein the consent of the state governments was removed. Now CBI can investigate all the cases in the states without the consent of the state governments also. That is how you have to conclude the answer. At this point of time, CBI can investigate. If you have those who are reading the current affairs, they should be knowing these things. Now, at this point of time, CBI can investigate all the cases, thanks to the changes made by the government regarding the legislation, right? And of course, we also have NIA. NIA has far-reaching powers than CBI. NIA for its investigations, NIA can do can conduct the investigations without the consent of the state governments when it comes to these terror cases and other things, right? So this is what you have to write for this question, right? This is mostly current affairs question, and if you have any doubts, you can ask. We can move on to the next question. Otherwise, shall we move on to the next question? Right? Okay. Let us move on to the next question. Though human rights commissions have contributed immensely to the protection of human rights in India, yet they have failed to assert themselves against the mighty and powerful. Analyze the structural and practical implications, suggesting remedial measures. What are the reasons why? Right? What are the reasons why new human rights commissions have failed? And those who have attended our Indian administration, public administration test series for the mains, which have completed as part of the crash course also, have given the same question in our public administration. And best of all, I had given a lot of statistics about why, how this Human Rights Commission has failed to assert itself against the mighty and powerful. I had given the statistics also. Please, that is the reason why. Please take all our these test series very seriously. Why? Because most of the things they will be again repeatedly asked in UPSC examination also. Especially if you have to do polity governance, the only thing that you have to remember is please go through all our Indian administration test series questions. Almost all the questions have been asked here also in our test in our Indian administration test series. So coming back here, how did this Human Rights Commission come into existence? Human Rights Commission has come into existence as part of what is called global constitutionalism. You can go through that question also, Human Rights Commission question, which I have given in test series. I had there I had given the printed material also answers, where I had almost given 2-3 pages about NHRC, all the statistics which you have to quote in your answers. The latest statistics, NHRC's latest report, I think 2019 or 2020 report. So wherein you have to quote all those statistics. This NHRC had come into existence as part of this United Nations Human Rights Commission, UNHRC, and this yes, Mahesh, it is available. As I said, Mahesh just now, this test series is part of the crash course. As part of the crash course, what I have done, I have taken around 32 classes of PABAD, wherein I was discussing the concepts and answering all the questions. And then we also had 12, I think 11 tests. 11 tests in 32 classes, and those 11 tests would be followed by 11 discussions also, each discussion of 2.5 hours. So you can have 32 plus 11, 43 classes. It covered the entire thing. It is available. And then I think for 43 classes, Unacademy was charging very, very less, around 14,000 rupees only, I think. It has charged only very less, only 14,000 rupees, I think, for those 11, 43 classes and 11 tests, which is dead cheap, right? Which is dead cheap. So if our Prime Minister Narendra Modi were to hear all these things, he would say that inflation is coming down in India, and he would give these statistics also, saying that Unacademy 45 classes and 11 tests combined together only 14,000 rupees, and he would say that inflation is coming down drastically in India. People are very happy. So that is the reason why I cannot talk about these things in a more uh, right. I cannot talk about these things at a more pronounced level also, because our Prime Minister immediately will come and say these things in Mann Ki Baat. He would say that look at what is happening under my divine rule. The prices are also coming down, right? So that is the reason why let us keep these things as secret only. Exactly, Buddha. I cannot not block my classes. You know, he will use this information to tell the people of Uttar Pradesh that prices are coming down and they should vote for BJP. They will vote also again for BJP also. That is the reason why we have to be careful here, right? So let us come back and look at analyze the structural and practical limitations. Rishu, not strong, not strong. Divine leadership, divine leadership of our Prime Minister, not strong, divine, right? So that is what we say here. So coming back here, what are the major structural and practical flaws of NHRC? First and foremost, the recommendations of NHRC are only advisory in nature. Whatever the investigation they conduct, right? Very good, Buddha. I like your innocence. Modi making me Prime Minister. The moment he thinks that I am going to be his rival, there will be income tax investigations, GST investigations, ED Enforcement Director investigations, then CBI investigations, followed by NIA, along with Section 129A and Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Right? You don't want to you don't want me to live in peace, right? But it seems that you are agent of your Prime Minister in the class, right? Right. You are what we study in, right? Still what we say in Elton Myers' human relations theory, informal organizations, Squealer, you are a Squealer who will be backstabbing being part of the group, right? And you will say that loyal follower, and immediately you will inform the same to my opponents, right? So let us come back and look at what we are discussing now. So what you are saying is that first and foremost, the recommendations of this NHRC are, they are only advisory in nature. So that is where the problem first and foremost. Second one is that NHRC does not have any separate investigative mechanism of its own. They don't have any separate investigative mechanism of its own. Third thing is that the maximum amount of human rights violation is done by the government only, whether it is the central government or state governments. Maximum amount of these investigations are done by the government only. So, right, Rishu, if one is totally blank about answer, simple, leave that question and go to the next question, right? So, this is another problem. You are investigating against a police officer, and you are asking the police officer, please help me in the investigations. Will a police officer ever come to help you in investigations? That is where the problem is. In maximum number of cases, it is the government which is the major culprit, which is the major which is the major what you call the culprit as far as human rights violations are concerned. NHRC does not have a separate investigative mechanism of its own. And then another major problem here, what we have to look at here is appointment of members to NHRC. Who are appointed as members to this NHRC? To this NHRC, mostly the members who are appointed are mostly from the ruling political party. Normally, what do we expect? As we study with regulatory authorities, why they had become totally ineffective? Because those who are close to the political executive, they are appointed as members. For example, recently, NHRC had conducted a symposium in Delhi, wherein they were taking up the topics which are mostly, blatantly in favor of the government. It is losing its independence, impartiality also. It is losing its independence and impartiality also. And that is where normally it is expected that those who work in the field of human rights would be appointed as members of NHRC. That is not the case. It has become again a parking lot for retired judges and retired bureaucrats also. That is where it is losing also its significance. As recently NHRC report has pointed out, In most of the 90% of the cases, please remember this kind of statistics I had given in the material also. In 90% of the cases, NHRC, what it has done, NHRC has simply either rejected those cases without any inquiry also, without conducting any preliminary inquiry also, because most of the cases are against the central government. Those cases are related to illegal imprisonment under UAPA or Section 124A or other things. So obviously, the credibility and impartiality of NHRC is also questioned here. So what is the solution? First and foremost, NHRC should have a separate investigative mechanism of its own. That is the first thing. Second, members of NHRC should be appointed independently and impartially, and mostly they should be appointed from the human rights organizations which are working which are working at the local level, the NGOs. And there should be time-bound investigations, and the recommendations of NHRC should be made mandatory, so that we can overcome those structural as well as practical implications of NHRC. They should also be given some kind of finances. That is also important, right? This is what the answer to the question. So let us move on to the next question. Yes, sir. If you have any doubts, you can give. Mahesh, what is the point of giving constitutional status? Election Commission is also has constitutional status, so is CAG. It is not about giving constitutional status. Not parking lot, Shuddha, I said parking lot. Buddha, I said parking, Parking, parking lot. That means those retired judges and those retired bureaucrats, they wanted post-retirement positions. They wanted post-retirement positions. Parking lot, yeah. They wanted post-retirement positions. And these regulatory authorities have become parking lots for all these post-retirement positions. So then let us move on to the next question. Analyze the distinguishing features of the notion of equality in the Constitution of USA and India. Right? What are the differences between in a Constitution of USA and India? That is what the question says. Analyze the distinguishing right. Again, this is part of comparison of Constitution. Those who have attended our Indian administration classes, they know all these things also, right? Take the case of United States of America. If you look at this equality, this has come from the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Bill of Rights. This Bill of Rights was included in the Constitution of USA through 14th Amendment, right? If you remember, in the United States of America, in a Constitution had come into existence 1789, and this Bill of Rights, was included in the United Nations Constitution only through 14th Amendment in the year 1868. On the other hand, if you look at India, this right to equality is part of our fundamental rights itself. In the chapter 3 of our Constitution, right? Whereas in case of United States of America, it was later included. Please remember, in United States of America, blacks for a long period of time after they come into existence also were not given voting rights also, right? Even now also in some states, they don't have the same kind of rights as that of other sections. That's what we have to remember, right? And next important feature of USA Constitution is equality, is that they have their concept of in equal protection of laws, in equal treatment under equal circumstances, right? In India, it is a combination of both what we call in India, it is a combination of both American and British concepts of equality before law, right? We have equality before law, right? British model of equality before law, and we also have equal protection of laws, right? This equal protection of laws is a feature of American Constitution, whereas equality before law is a feature of British Constitution. And when it comes to equality in United States of America, this equality before law is basically, talks about civil and legal equalities. In India, this equality goes beyond civil and legal. It talks about social, cultural, economic equalities also, because India is a much more diverse country than United States of America, right? And in United States of America, equality, is emphasized on a procedural sense, that is focused on equal opportunities. In India, equality is both procedural as well as substantive. That is the reason why we have what is called affirmative action also. Substantive also. We have affirmative action also. Equal opportunities in, for all sections of society. Equality includes equity also in India. That is what you have to remember here. Equality also includes equity in India. And in the United States of America, original constitution did not prevent discrimination. United States of America, please remember, they did not prevent discrimination, right? For example, African Americans were always discriminated against. They got the rights only in 1964, whereas in India, this Articles 15 and 17 prohibits this kind of discrimination, right, against discrimination, right, untouchability. So if you look at it at the end of the day, what do we say here? At the end of the day, what we say here is that India's concept of you know India's concept of this equality before law, is much more broader in scope than United States of America. And then you have to look at a little bit more substantive things also. For example, in India, the state cannot make any laws that can restrict the fundamental rights of the people, especially the right to equality. But at the same time, please remember, in India, we also have so many provisions for what we call minority sections of society, social and cultural freedoms, Article 25 to 28. Either Articles 25 to 28, these social and cultural freedoms. Minorities in our country are given the freedom to they are given the freedom to what we call establish their own religious institutions and also run them. The state cannot interfere in their functioning. On the other hand, in India, this equality is a little bit more contrived compared to United States of America. The government of India. That is the reason why we have this in a Hindu code bill also. Please remember, we don't have any uniform civil code. That is also you have to remember here. We don't have any uniform civil code. The civil laws are different in India. Civil laws are still different in India, right? Civil laws are different. Islam personal law and other laws. It is only the judiciary in recent times that is trying to bring in much wider equality in India. The same in the in the United States of America. This equality is not there in what we call reality also. Blacks are still discriminated, right? And that is what. And then in India, any discrimination, for example, if you are practicing untouchability, it is a non-bailable offense. Prevention of atrocities against scheduled castes. Those kind of legislations are not there in American Constitution. Please remember. Indian Constitution is more, it is much more biased, much more prejudiced in favor of the weaker sections of society because of the fact that those weaker sections of society have been ruthlessly exploited for generations together. That is the reason why our Constitution, right? That is the reason why our Constitution has given more freedoms. In America, you don't have any legislation. What we call a prevention of atrocities against the blacks. You don't have any that kind of legislation, right? In India, our equality is more on a basis of what we call equity also. In India, our equality is more on the basis of equity. Whereas in United States of America, this equality is more only procedural sense, but not in the substantive sense. That is the difference that you have to write here between United States of America and India. And why? Why? Because in India, along with the freedom movement, we also had the social cultural reform movement. And of course, in framing of our constitution, Ambedkar played a very, very important role. And Ambedkar made sure that this untouchability, which was practiced widely in India, would become a thing of the past with the strict legislations. Right? After writing all these things, then you have to come to the conclusion. What is the conclusion that you have to write here? It is not, it is not the legislation or laws or the constitution that can ensure equality. It is only economic growth and development along with the education and the social and cultural progress that can ensure equality within the societies. India may have a better constitution. India may have an effective provisions against exploitation, but in reality, they remain only on paper. That is what, and that is how you have to conclude. Right? That is how you have to conclude this answer. Right? Exactly. Socio-economic transformation. So, shall we move on to the next question? Let us move on to the next question. Explain the constitutional provisions under which legislative councils are established. Review the working and current status of legislative council with suitable illustrations. Yes, Abhishek, those kind of colorful statements are good. You have to explain them also, right? Explain the constitutional provisions under which legislative councils are established. Review the functioning and with suitable illustrations. Again, UPSC by asking these kind of questions, I don't know what they are trying to, achieve by asking these kind of questions because it is not that much important from the examination point of view. These legislative councils, right? If they are asking these kind of questions, I think their objective is only to ask questions which from peripheral areas, so that they want to tell the students that they are also working very hard. So let us look at the answer to the question. First of all, why this question was asked? Why this question was asked? Recently, what happened? That's why you need good knowledge of current affairs in the last 2 years. Recently, what happened in Andhra Pradesh State Legislative Council? Right? This there was this bill related to the three states for Andhra Pradesh. Three capital for Andhra Pradesh. It was passed in the state legislative assembly. It went to the state legislative council. And the state legislative council, as you know, they don't have any real powers. But the council chairman, who belonged to the opposition party, had rejected the bill, saying that under the discretionary power that he had, he was rejecting the bill, even though he said that he does not have those powers. This question was asked. Please remember, you know, you know, right? Because of what happened in Andhra Pradesh. Please remember that is where your current affairs knowledge becomes very, very important. Let us come back to the question first. These legislative councils are established under Article 169 of the Constitution. Under Article 169 of the Constitution, our Parliament has the right to create and abolish a legislative council by simple majority. That is, it requires only simple majority on the part of the members present and voting in both the houses of Parliament. And you know, if you have to establish a legislative council, the state legislative assembly must pass a resolution with a special majority under Article 171 of the Constitution, so that Parliament can set up, Parliament can initiate this process of having a legislative council, right? Now, what are the states in India that had these legislative councils? Andhra Pradesh Andhra Pradesh has the legislative council, right? Then there was this, Telangana also has legislative council. Then some of the states like Madhya Pradesh, then West Bengal, then Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. Some of the states have legislative councils, right? Now, why these legislative councils that had come into existence? Why? Because just like in Rajya Sabha, the objective of having these legislative council is to make sure that those prominent citizens of the state, those experts in different fields, then the graduates, and then teachers and others. They cannot contest. They cannot contest elections, and they cannot expect to win elections also because of the limited resources that they have. That is the reason why, in order to provide opportunity for them to become part of the legislature, these legislative councils have been created. And these legislative councils, consisting of the experts from different fields, would also provide their knowledge to the legislative assembly in terms of formulating the laws, and also in terms of meaningful discussions on the floor of the house. In legislative assembly, the basic issue can be that most of them members are have political affiliations, so it becomes difficult for them to discuss the matters in an impartial and unbiased manner. Whereas the legislative council members, they don't have to, they, since they are not directly contesting elections, or they are not directly participating in elections, they can use their skills, knowledge, and expertise to improve lawmaking. This is the reason why this legislative council had also come into existence. And not only that, they can act as a, some kind of breakwaters, to stop the flood. It is just like a dam to stop the floods. For example, legislative assemblies can be sometimes aggressive in coming out with legislation which can be anti-people also sometimes. This is where legislative councils can come and caution the legislative assembly from taking up those kind of actions. That is the reason why legislative council have been established, right? Then what happened over a period of time? Over a period of time, these legislative councils have become again parking lot for most of the politicians who had lost in general elections. They had also become highly politicized. That is the reason why in 1980s, in Andhra Pradesh, when N.T. Ramarao had become the chief minister of Andhra Pradesh, he had recommended this abolition of the state legislative council. He had recommended to the Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, late Rajiv Gandhi, at that point of time, and it was accepted. Later, it was revived in Andhra Pradesh. And as I said, in recently, this had become a problematic one because whatever the legislation that is passed by the state legislative assembly has been routinely opposed by the legislative council, mostly for what we call political reasons. So, what did the state assembly do? The state assembly had passed a resolution. The state assembly had passed a resolution demanding that the legislative council should be abolished because it felt that this legislative council as well is only coming in the way of the functioning of the assembly because this legislative council had opposition majority. The TDP in Andhra Pradesh had majority till recently. So that is the reason why Jagan Mohan Reddy government had immediately passed a legislation demanding the abolition of legislative council. But then what happened after, as you know, in legislative council also elections are held after every 2 years. When elections are held after 2 years, Jagan Mohan Reddy government again got majority in the legislative council. Then immediately again the state assembly has done a U-turn and then had requested the central government to continue with the legislative council also. This question was asked only specifically keeping in mind what happened in Andhra Pradesh, right? So the central government did not take any decision regarding abolition of this assembly. It did not take any decision regarding the abolition of this legislative council. And again, immediately, Jagan Mohan Reddy government had requested once again with the central government that this legislative council should be continued, should be allowed to continue also because they got their majority again back on the floor of the house. Unfortunately, in almost all the states, the legislative councils, there is no meaningful discussion on the legislative councils because these legislative councils have become nothing but an extension of legislative assemblies also. It is high time, they can be abolished at the state level because they have not performed their functions efficiently. That is what you can write as part of your answers. In most of the states, they had become too politicized. In states like UP, Bihar, and is Maharashtra, in Karnataka also legislative council. So that is what you have to write for this question, right? So this is the thing. If you have any doubts, you can ask. I think the time is also up. The time is also up, right? Why do we need to merge them? You can safely abolish legislative councils, Buddha, because Rajya Sabha has different powers. Legislative councils don't have all the powers that Rajya Sabha has. So it is only a financial burden on the state governments, and it has become a parking lot for mostly defeated politicians in elections. So it is not required. So we can abolish them. Yeah, you cannot do anything, Rishu. That is the reason why what you have to remember, Rishu, is that you are not attempting all the 20 questions. You know, don't try to attempt all the questions. You cannot. So don't worry about the questions which you cannot answer. Rishu, there are nobody can remember all the facts. That is what you have to do, right? You cannot remember all of them. It is impossible, right? So that is it. Tomorrow, we have a change in the timing. Tomorrow we are meeting morning at 11 o'clock, and tomorrow I will start with the ethics paper. Tomorrow I will start with ethics paper. Ethics section A. Tomorrow I will start, and the class will be morning at 11 o'clock, 11 to 12. This year's ethics paper I will take up. Till then, take care of yourself. Right?